Hello, good people of YouTube, Mountbatten here, and today we are taking a look at the Tier 8 Premium Japanese battleship, the Key. First released all the way back in 2017, September 2017, so this ship is over 4 years old at this point. That's quite an elderly ship in this game, but yeah, the Key is quite the boat. She is the Amagi, but rather than be a battle cruiser-y battleship, she was a battleship-y battleship. The Amagis were designed kind of as a super battle cruiser, but then the Key was supposed to be a further development of the Amagi that was more well armored. So naturally, she's slower, and there's some other changes there too, which we will talk about in today's video. But that's what the ship is supposed to be. Now, the main reason you've probably clicked on this video is that the title's something along the lines of the other money printer that players forget about. And yes, the Key is a money printer. She has quite the fearsome credit income potential, as you'll see in the two matches that we'll be playing during this video, highlighting two builds you could potentially do on the Key that are well, one's more viable than the other one, but one can't. The other one that you're probably watching right now can work when in the correct situation. So let's go ahead and jump right in, starting with what most of you are here for: her credit earning potential. So Key has access to the Kobayashi camo. The same guy that designed the beer can Roma camo also designed a camo for this ship for the game. Now, this camo, just like the Roma, gives it an insane economic boost, on top of the economic boost the Key already gets for simply being a premium ship. So the Kobayashi camo gives you a 50% reduction to the post-battle service of the Key, then gives you a 20% boost to the credit earnings per battle of the Key, and a 100% boost to the XP earned by the Key. I'm sorry if you're hearing some noise outside. My neighbor's doing some construction. I really can't do anything about that. So that right there really takes the ship's earnings to the next level. And on top of that, too, you can, of course, mount 21 signal flags, and if you have all of the special signal flags and the economic signal flags available, for the moment at least, that really takes this ship up to, like, Missouri levels of printing credits. Now, the battles that you will be watching today, one is highlighting a secondary build on the Key. I'll get on to why that could potentially be a decent choice in a second, and one's highlighting a main battery build. And you will see the end results for both. Despite one being a defeat, they are quite good. So that right there, that gives you the ability to earn credits quite well. But naturally you have to do something in battle to earn credits, which means you have to perform at least halfway decently. Now, it's not quite like the Missouri where you can enter the battle, sell 2 inches forward, and then obviously just come out with an armful of credits. Of course, it's not quite that insane, but it is still quite good. So, let's look at what the ship has and her differences between the Amagi and herself. So, the armor is one of the biggest differences in the Key versus the Amagi debate. Well, comparison, not really debate. So, what's the difference? Well, Key has less torpedo protection, but more belt armor. So, seems like a fair trade. You trade off that nice 45% reduction to the torpedo damage you take for a thicker belt. Amagi's belt is a mere 254 millimeters thick. Key's belt is a mighty 292 millimeters thick. It's not that much of a difference, but okay, it's a difference. Now, of course, on the Amagi, you have those huge torpedo bulges that come up halfway up the side of the ship and cover up most of the ship. So that's what gives you that excellent torpedo protection. On the Key, the torpedo bulges are nowhere near that tall. They don't even cover the main belt, which the torpedo protection covering the main belt ironically makes some pretty trolly spaced armor sometimes, but you don't get that on the Key. So, yeah. Now, the Citadel is where the Key really falls short. The Citadel on the Key is the same Citadel that the Amagi gets in terms of its placement and its design, kind of. But it's turtleback, like the Amagi, but it's much less thinner. The Key Citadel slopes are 38 millimeters thick, while on the Amagi, Her Citadel slopes, and I'll again throw an image up here for reference, are 102 millimeters to 95 millimeters thick. So even at its thinnest, the Amagi's Citadel slopes are almost 3 times as thick as the Key's. So that means when shells that can get past your 292 millimeter belt, which when you're playing tier 8, there's a lot that can get through that, they're going to absolutely obliterate your Citadel. Whereas if you had the Key and had sloped 95 or 102 millimeter Citadel slopes, it would probably just throw a middle finger up at those shells, and it does. The Amagi is actually a fairly tough battleship to crack because of that. If you watched my Tirpitz video yesterday, I had a broadside Amagi and I was blasting in with Tirpitz's guns from 8 kilometers away, and when the shells hit, I got some pins, but it didn't pin the Citadel. So that's what makes the Amagi really, really tough. So ironically, the better armored Amagi is less well armored than the normal Amagi. Yeah, and it was really funny. I remember when I reviewed this ship for the first time, I said it's got worse armor than the Amagi, and people were flipping their nuts in the comment section saying, oh no, the Key has better belt armor. That's nice and all, but when your Citadel gets vibe checked by everything with big guns, that kind of sucks. So, yeah, now, what do you trade off for that? Well, the Key is also much slower than the Amagi. She's down to 31 knots with the speed flag. Take the speed flag off, it's like 29 knots and change at that point. The Amagi is obviously much faster at 31.5 knots with the speed flag on, so you got a little bit of a speed boost there by 0.5 knots, but again, not a major difference. Now, her rudder shift time is actually a little bit slower than the Amagi. The Amagi's is at a glacial 17.3 seconds, while the Key is only at about a continental 15.9 seconds. So not exactly a very snappy battleship in terms of rudder shift time. Now, with going 31 knots with a long rudder shift time, it's not the worst thing ever. The ship is still quick enough to keep up with the rest of the team and outrun most of the enemy ships that you're going to see, especially with the speed flag equipped. She does have a massive turning circle of 880 meters, so there's that to take into consideration on the top of her, of course, not so great Citadel as well. Concealment-wise, down to 14 kilometers with the build I have on here, which is the commander skill and the module as well, so that's pretty nice. 14 kilometers for a tier 8 battleships. Again, not worse, not terrible. It's nice. It's nice to have that and not like a 15 kilometer detection range. Now, the other main difference comes with her guns. Now, they did buff them down to a 30-second flat reload time, so she has the same reload time as the Amagi. It was only a 1 second difference, but hey, now it's the same. But she does only have 1.7 Sigma and a maximum range of 19.4 kilometers, which you can increase with the spotter plane if you want to. That'll get you out over 20, which is plenty enough at that tier. You know, tier A, you'll be seeing tier 10 games with the spotter plane. You'd be nice and comfortable with that 21, 22 kilometer range that the spotter plane does give you. Now the Sigma is lower. She has a 1.7 Sigma instead of Amagi's 1.8. So a little bit worse, but not really that terrible. The big change comes with the secondaries. The Key has the Harugumo turrets as their secondaries, which is the same turrets that the Shikishima has as her secondaries. She has 16 of these on the Key. So these are those guns that they're 100mm guns, but they're so freaking fast at 1,000 meters a second with their velocity, it can pin 30mm of armor, which is just about, that is just about every single tier 8 cruiser and DD. You can absolutely shred with these secondaries when they get on target, and you get that secondary accuracy up with the manual fire for secondary skill. The first match you should be watching or might have played already, I was running a secondary build. I got double up tier to a tier 10 game, and yeah, it wasn't that useful for a good part of the match, but once the match evolved and I was able to use the secondaries, they were quite decent. Now, too, they buffed the range out to 10 kilometers, which is pretty nice on a Japanese battleship. Then she also has the casemate 140mm guns, which can only pin 23 because they only go at 850 meters a second, unlike the hypervelocity of the 100mm guns. The 150s have a 10% chance of starting a fire, and the 100s have a 6% chance of causing a fire, with a 2.8 second reload time on the 100s and a 7.6 reload time on the 140s. On top of that, too, she has torpedoes. She has 2x3 of the 610mm torps, and they too got buffed out to 10 kilometers. 10-kilometer torps on a battleship. That's quite good. So that's a hell of a lot better than the German battleships with their normally 6-kilometer torps. Now the German battle cruisers that are coming out, they do have 12-kilometer torps, and yeah, that is even better with that range, but heck, 10-kilometer torps on a tier 8 battleship, that's quite good too. So what you have is a ship that has the Keys guns, which are those sweet Japanese 410 16-inch guns. You get 10 of those, which gives you one of the heaviest broadsides at tier 8. You get darn good secondaries. You get 10-kilometer torpedoes in exchange for less, well, not less, but a worse armor profile than the Amagi, less range, and slightly less sigma. So can a ship that's Amagi retooled to this level still do good in Wood Warships, and still might be one you want to pick up for the credit earning potential? So the key, when she's not top tier, she will struggle a little bit with that 17.5 kilometer, not 17.5, that 19.5 kilometer range in a tier 10 game. That's a lot better than a lot of other tier 8 battleships, and you do again have the Japanese 410mm guns with slightly less sigma than the Amagi. They can definitely keep up, especially if you have the spotter plane and pop it when you need to, and you'll be able to hit targets fairly consistently with the key. Of course, not as good as the Amagi because of the lower sigma, but she can definitely dunk shells on targets when need be. You'll just have a little bit more frustration every now and then with the dispersion, again with the lower sigma. Add on top of that too, that you do have the potential to build into secondaries here. It means that when destroyers get close to you, or hell, even cruisers again with those 100mm guns, you can tear them a new one. Is it going to be like Shikishima levels? No, because it's not the Shikishima. You don't have as many as the Shikishima does. But, and of course you can't mount the secondary mod 3 that gets that reload speed down even further. But there's definitely enough there to have some good fun and tear into them when the opportunity presents. Plus you have those 10-kilometer torps too. Now, a key to playing the key is that you don't try to use the torps. I've seen so many key players think, I have these 10-kilometer torps, I have to use them. You use them in the right situations, meaning when you're kiting a ship, like you'll see, or probably have already seen in the first clip, that Massachusetts, I was trying to get him to follow me, and I was kiting, and I threw some torpedoes at him. When the ships are chasing you, especially with a lot of newer players, they don't think battleships have torpedoes, but that's when you throw these torps at them, and you keep it within your secondary range, keep your secondaries chewing on them, and then they might eat a torpedo or two, and that's really, really, really nice and satisfying when that happens, and of course gives you the edge in combat too, because now the ship that you're kiting has just eaten a couple of torpedoes from you, or of course if you do get in brawling situations, the torpedoes are the ace up your sleeve, and of course shoving 3 torpedoes in the side of a ship that do 17,233 damage each. 3 torpedoes, well hell 6 if you somehow manage to do some nice maneuvers and get all sets of tubes on target. Yeah, they're going to fill that, and that's definitely going to give you the advantage in that brawl. So the ship can brawl, it's just that you will eat citadels a lot easier from close range than you would with the Amagi. But we have other ships that are meant to brawl that don't have the most protected sides, like the new German battle cruisers. Yes, their citadels are, well, actually not that hard to hit, but they're good at brawling, and they're kind of in the same boat. There's a citadel from the side, but they're tend to be slippery enough to get into the situation they need to get in. either blap the target, throw the torps at the target, and win. You can kind of do the same with the key here, but she's not as maneuverable, but she can do it. Now, you don't have to go with a secondary build. You can go with a main battery build. 19.5 kilometers, like I said, that's plenty enough range at tier 8. That's enough with a spotter at tier 10 to stay in the fight, and you'll still do a fair amount of damage. The two matches that you've watched one already, the one that's playing right now, both of these games I did around 100,000 damage. Now, with the key being a tier 8 ship, that's better for its credit earning, because when you do damage to ships of a higher tier than you get a boost to your XP and credit income. So that means when you're in a tier 10 game, you don't have to do 170,000 damage to make profit. You guys just saw, I did 99,000 damage in that first match, and I made freaking bank. The match you're watching right now, I'm top tier, and I do, I think, like 120-something thousand damage, and I get a similar result to what I did in the previous match. So, yeah, the ship can still perform today, and she can still bring in plenty of money. Now, why would you want this over the Roma? Well, the Roma, like I talked about a couple of weeks ago, her guns are frustrating. They're very high velocity, they have fantastic pins, but they're not very accurate, which means that when you're shooting at a broadside target, even from like 10 kilometers away, half the shells are going to go in the water, and the shells that hit are probably going to overpin the target, so you're going to wind up doing maybe 4,000 damage to them as they just sail happily broadside away from you. Now, of course, if you do get close enough, the guns will hit and they will connect. If you can hit the Citadel of the ship, the Roma does have fantastic guns and will utterly blap them. So yeah, the Roma can do damage. I'm not saying that the Roma can't do damage. I'm just saying that it's frustrating in many situations. The key, on the other hand, is a source of much more reliable damage. Again, you got 10 16-inch guns, you got the torpedoes, you got the secondaries. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention this too. She has North Carolina levels of AA. So if you want a Japanese battleship that's a middle finger to carriers, this is a ship to take. The first match, you can see I even made the Midway suffer when he flew over me, which was, pretty entertaining to do, denying a tier 10 CV of planes. So this would probably, in my opinion, be the better pick over the Roma, because you have two ways to play the key. You have secondary build and main battery build. It's up to you. She can do both. Probably in today's meta, main battery build would be the better choice, but with the recent update to the commander skills and the buffing of key secondaries quite some time ago, she's a pretty decent pick for a secondary build. It's up to you. I'm just presenting you with the information. So yes, the key probably would be a decent investment if you want to get a ship that prints credits. Now the big caveat to this is you have to buy the Kobayashi camo, which does cost 7,000 doubloons. So you have to purchase a tier 8 premium ship and then that camo on top of it. But your credit issues will be solved in this game. Even when they remove the economic flag that removes the buff to the post-battle service, what's the flag called? Freaking India Bravo Terra 3, that will remove the ability for you to get that 10% boost to your post-battle service. Even once you get that, you're still getting the freaking 50% cost reduction from the Kobayashi camo. So really, if you want a premium that's just a one-stop shop for you to end your credit problem in World of Warships, it is the key. So guys, let me know what you guys think about the key in the comments down below. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Tuesday. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like and subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 30,000 subs. We just passed 29,600 a few days ago, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. Again, hope you guys have a wonderful Tuesday. Have a wonderful week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.